What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and this is the movie review of A Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation, the Nate Parker sensational film that he made, taking the title from the book that was made by the crazy, racist, well, I should say, Confederate-driven racist book. But he just took the title from it, and right away when it said screenplay by Nate Parker, directed by Nate Parker, you know, this is Nate's film. Many people like Tupac Shakur and others have written scripts about Nat Turner and decided that this was the movie that they wanted to make and, you know, bring this film to life. For years, okay, a film like this has been kicked to the side, put on the desk, and has been turned down. We've seen other films that involve slavery and misfortunes all before. But one of the main reasons we haven't seen anything like this film in a very long time is because of the fact it shows a rebellion against the slave owners, something that they don't want to show you. They don't want to show you slave owners being attacked or tearing apart. This was about Christianity. This was about political views. This was about God. See, Birth of a Nation shed lights to a lot of things that happened during slavery, and it didn't focus on the beatings. And see, they want to drive you away from this film by bringing up things about Nate Parker's some crazy thing that's already been solved like many years ago about a rape case. Anything to be a distraction to the film. Now, as the film starts, it shows the estate of which Nat Turner was raised on. Now, when Nat Turner was raised on this property, or on this plantation where he was with his family, which was the Turner, they saw a gift in him when he was able to read words without being taught. Of course, in this version, I've never heard about this version of it until this movie. And they were so fascinated by it, the son and daughter, you know, they wanted to teach him how to read, so that way he could learn the Bible. He wasn't allowed to read any other books. They said, oh, no, those books are only for white people. You wouldn't understand it. So they would only let him read the Bible. And the whole goals were for him to preach the Bible and learn it so that he could teach and pass on those words to the other slaves. And this way it keeps the slaves calm so there wouldn't be any conflict. Before Nat Turner, and that's why I said he touched on this subject, because no other movie talking about slavery has done so. Slave owners took the Bible and made alterations to them, would add in there always obey your slave master and all that. They made all these changes in there to use it to keep the slaves from rebelling, because they had a lot of uprisings long before Nat Turner when they were acquiring and bringing slaves over. They think everyone's just because they're black and they bring them over, they the same. And that wasn't the case. They went to the Congo, and it was a lot of conflict, and you brought a lot of those guys over who had a lot of strategic military background from fighting in the Congos. And they were able to communicate, even though some of them spoke different dialects, they were able to communicate and get people to join in, and strategically started to rebel against the slave owners. And they did what Nat Turner did beforehand. But let's stick to the movie. Now, Birth of a Nation, in this film, his directorial choices was more on like shame, guilt, responsibility, showing a young boy in his dreams, he's feared in all his things. He's seeing like images of him being surrounded by devils, and him just being a little boy in the dream. He's terrified by these visions and all these perceptions, and his mother's telling him like they're just dreams. Don't be afraid of them. Don't give in to the fear. And it's so powerful and insightful as a film. I don't want anybody to not go see this film. I want people to go there and get educated on the type of knowledge that was being passed on through the film. They didn't focus on the beatings, but they want to tell you, man, I'm just sick of these slave movies, man. It's not that. This is an educational movie. They're not beating people for gratification. You're not seeing all this extra rape scenes. They don't show you this because they don't want you to lose and forget the message. Penelope Ann Miller played a great role again as the daughter, and as Elizabeth Turner, and I thought it was a tremendous job that she did. And then when the Reverend Turner died, it showed him, as nice as he was, and as greatly as they got along on that Turner plantation, they didn't really believe in beating their slaves. And they had a pretty decent reign. That's why they were mostly revered, and like people were like, oh, they think they're better than us. And they kind of fell out of society, as far as the other slave owners who was like stepping on them, beating them, and just doing all this extra crazy stuff to them. Here, they were treated not like whites, but better than animals. And they thought that he was going to be, in the church, and as soon as the Reverend died, she put him out in the field of work. And it's like, whoa, I thought that, okay, well, I guess I'm back to the field to start working, no problem. But he still worked with the Bible, and, he convinced the son who became the new Sam Turner, who became the new Armie Hammer, played a great role playing him. He decided to take over, it fell on him to be the new owner, runner of the land. And since it's been under his control, most people, they don't want to have nothing to do with him. And because he's the way he is, and he lets, Nat go everywhere with him and basically do work. He's well spoken. He doesn't question or challenge people. He mostly just stay in his lane and keep the peace. But when they come up with a great idea, one of the old reverends over there, who's just all about money, decides, let's make some money for your farm. People love Nat, we can take him around to all the other plantations and let him speak to the slaves, where they're thinking of uprising, and let him talk to them and, keep them calm. And then he's like, you're going to make a pretty penny for you. So right away, he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So now he's making some money again. Now he's getting back into play, like, all right, I'm back at the table. And now he's ready to compromise who he is because he wants to stay at the table. And then it comes to a situation where Nat has to choose to do something that's going to upset white people, or he's doing it because by law of God it says he can do it. And that's when it comes into a level of conflict where you get to see, like, even though these people, you got along and they treated you well and this and that, he's still the slave owner. You're not his friend. He doesn't love you. Okay? He's might be empathetic at times, but never lose focus of that. And he didn't, but he learned a lesson right there. He thought, I can be emotional, say things that I probably shouldn't say, and then that's that. You know, so no. He learned a valuable lesson and then decided to make a decision. Now, this is an excellent movie. And I love the imagery again when they show when he was a grown man, how he was a little boy surrounded by the devils again. And then his self shows up in war mode as a man and he confronts the devil. Just walks up into the devil. And the devil's afraid. They're afraid of him. So, that to me was a powerful moment in the film. I look at movies like this as I went and saw this movie. Of course, I saw it with an audience that was mixed. There were white people in there, they didn't even breathe. I barely knew they were there. When the movie was over, you know, it was some brothers powerful in there, like, man, you know, like, brothers is charged. The white people, they crept out of that place. They crept out, like, let's go. Like, grab your stuff, let's go. Like, let's get out of here right now. You know, because they were so afraid, and it still shows that that fear is right there and clear and present. They fear is the reason all of these things happen and take place. They make unnecessary observations and decisions based off fear. Believe me, black folks ain't thinking about y'all. They're not. So you don't have to worry about them. They don't want you. They just want to live their lives, get paid, do what they want to do. They'll stay away from you and do anything. They don't want to harm you. Why are you so concerned about them? And that is the whole gist of it. People have a lack of understanding for other people's, lane, because normally the majority of white people, they don't care. They only like what they like, and they only have empathy for them. They can't see it for anybody else. The majority of them, they don't understand it. It confuses them. But overall, I think that this movie needs to be watched by everyone so you can see how misguided this entire nation was, and then how it was built, how profits were made. And how wicked people can be. Then you see the character of people in this film. And I like how they tied this into The Glory with Denzel Washington and all that. I'm thinking, is that Denzel character that did this? It's kind of monumental. It's like someone they make a mistake and they learn something at the end, and they take that and they go, and when they become man, it changes them. So it's just sending a message that we're passing it on to the next generation, and this and this and this. So I don't want to talk too much about it. I mean, you'll get a great understanding about this story, but it'll probably open your eyes to go do more research about it, because when I was in school, they taught us all we knew is he killed the slave owners. That's it. Nat Turner led up against the racist slave owners, and that was it. Started a rebellion. We hear about him and Harriet Tubman. There were plenty of things missed out on. You know, there was a slave who mailed himself out of slavery in one of those barrels with a postage stamp and everything, and they mailed him to freedom. They never talk about his story. You know, I'm like, they choose and pick who they want to use, and it was shocking to see Gabrielle Union in this film. You know, she played one of the slaves' wives, this lady named Esther, and I was one of Nat Turner's closest friends. And of course, they had the house Negro, the guy that stayed in the house and did everything that Sam wanted him to do, and they called him the house slave. You know. But yeah, man. So that's that. It's your boy Carcino. I'm out. And go see it. Tell me what you think. If you did see it already. Somebody told me the other day, like, man, I wish they made a sequel. They came back and started rumbling with them. I was like, I know people get charged when they see this. And I guess that's what these people are afraid of. They talking about it flopped at the movie theaters. Nah, girl on the train. You know, it was a better movie. I'm like, that thing is in how many theaters? That's a very well promoted film. I barely saw any commercials for Birth of a Nation. They did all that promotion early on when it won the awards for being such a powerful film. And this film is not a reason for whites to be afraid of. This ain't gonna start an uprising. It's educational. But I know the real reason that's why they don't want you to learn it, because it tells things about their history that they've been lying to you about. So if you go and investigate, you'll start to see more and more like, well, they've been lying about this. What else they lied about? They don't want you to know that. Or they don't want no emphasis on it. Short-term memory. That's what they want everybody to have. So, on that note, I'm out.